Now, most of the musical groups and artists that I've talked about so far, with the exception of En Vogue and Jody Watley, have primarily fallen into two different categories. Whether you're talking about um, an artist or a group that had a one or two pretty big albums or singles or what have you, but then they just fell to the wayside and fall into obscurity. Or, as in the case with maybe rapper Charisma or MC Trouble, individuals who were on the verge of stardom, but tragedy befell them, whether they were killed or they died, whatever. Boys to Men is a whole different story. Whole different story. This group achieved mega stardom, not just superstardom, but mega stardom. They were one of the biggest musical groups in the world in the mid to late 1990s. But as is the case with most musical groups, even with this, you could say that they've kind of fallen a little bit back into somewhat obscurity, but their fans are still there and they still sell out, you know, even to this day. So they've never truly gone away. They may not be what they were at their peak, but they're still one of the biggest musical groups uh, in the world. But they didn't start off as Boys to Men. They were originally called Unique Attraction, and they were started by Nathan Morris and Mark Nelson, who was friends at the Philadelphia High School for the Creative and Performing Arts. And also in this group at the time were fellow schoolmates George Baldy, John Schultz, and Marguerite Walker. And this was in 1985. 2 years later, Wanya Morris joined the group and became a permanent member since he was only a freshman. In 1988, Baldy, Schultz, and Walker all left because they graduated. Then they recruited Sean Stockman after seeing him perform in a solo in the school's choir. One day, Nate, Mark, Wanya, and Sean were practicing harmonies in a school bathroom, and in walked Michael McCrary, who started singing along with the group and eventually became the group's new bass singer. Now, with a permanent lineup of members, the group rehearsed in the high school's bathrooms due to the excellent acoustics and on the corners of their schools and local hangouts. At the time, they found inspiration in new auditions, harmonies, and routines. And due to one of New Edition's songs, Boys to Men, they decided to rename themselves Boys to Men, but instead of using the word two, they used the Roman numeral two. After performing at a Valentine's Day party at school in 1989, Boys to Men got their big break when they snuck into a concert put on by local radio station Power 99 at the Philadelphia Civic Center. Their plan was to find Will Smith backstage and perform for him. But while looking for Will Smith, they happened to cross paths with New Edition member Michael Bevins, who, along with fellow groupmates Ricky Bale and Ronnie DeVoe, had just announced they were forming a New Edition spin-off trio, Bell Biv DeVoe. We all remember them, right? After they sang New Edition's Can You Stand the Rain for him, Bivins and everyone in attendance, including other celebrities, were impressed. He then gave the group his number and told them to give him a call. Nate eventually called him and he agreed to manage and help produce the group. The delay before recording their own material and reportedly, some personal conflicts led to founding member Mark Nelson to leave the group, which reduced them from five to the famous four quartet that we remember from the 1990s: Michael McClary, Nathan Morris, Wanya Morris, and Sean Stockman. I got to tell you something. In my personal opinion, I thought all of them were great, but to me, I think Wanya had the best. I think he had the best voice. And you can kind of hear him They all sound great, but you can kind of hear his voice stand out amongst all of them. And if you don't know who Wanya is, if you're younger, that's the one in the middle standing. He sort of stood out when they were harmonizing, but Michael's voice naturally stood out because he had the deeper bass, bass voice. But Wanya, he always come across to me as the one with the best out of all their voices. That's just me. So we first all hear of Boyz II Men when their debut album dropped in 1991, Cooley High Harmony. And this album was produced by Michael Bivins. This was in the heart of the New Jack Swing era. All right. And their style was called hip hop doo wop. And unlike a lot of groups, Boyz II Men featured all four members as leads. You know what I'm saying? And I like that because all of them can sing. They all had verses and to sing, and I like that. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's involved, and they all had strong voices. But like I said before, to me, Wanya kind of stood out to me. Maybe that's just me, and everybody's gonna agree with that. The first song I remember them, of course, was Motown Philly, and that was a great song. And what else was the other song that came out that year on that album? Uh, oh yeah, It's So Hard to Say Goodbye to Yesterday. It's so hard to say goodbye to yesterday. And remember when Martin had that little parody? Uh, um, it's so hard to say goodbye to my mama's bird. When the bird died and shit. The bird didn't have a name, it was just my mama's bird. It's so hard to say goodbye to my mama's bird. But the song that really put them on the map. By the way, Cooley High Harmony sold over 9 million copies and won the Grammy Award for Best R&B Performance by a Duo or Group with Vocals at the 1992 Grammy Awards. Okay, but the song that really put them on the map, though, was "End of the Road." And "End of the Road" was initially featured only on the Boomerang soundtrack, but later on they added "End of the Road" to their debut album from 1991. But "End of the Road" at the time set a record for longevity, okay, on the Billboard Hot 100 number one. It remained number one from August 22nd until November 14th. And I remember when I was in seventh grade, because now mind you, I started seventh grade in September of '92, right? I remember every day when we were at the bus stop, that song played because it was a house adjacent to our bus stop, and there was a radio that was always near the window, and that song played every damn morning when we were waiting for the bus. Just happened to play every. Got to the point, man, when we were at the bus stop, just singing this shit. You know what I'm saying? I was Michael because my voice was just about starting to change at that time. So my voice was a little bit deeper and shit. And yeah, but we were all yeah. But those were some great times though, man. You know, with music though, like in general. Even with the different types of music you could listen to, like even in the rap genre, like you had hardcore rap, but you had conscious rap, you had happy rap, like Fresh Prince and DJ Jazzy Jeff. But it was more the fact that it was just an era where you had great MCs. Whether you're talking about, I'm talking people that could actually spit. Whether you're talking about Big Daddy Kane, whether you're talking about, you know, Special Ed, whether you're talking about Chubb Rock, whether you're talking about Rakim, just in general. But End of the Road set a record where it was number one for I think I think it was 14 weeks or 13 weeks or something like that. And later on that year, I think they toured with Hammer. They were the opening act with MC Hammer. So this is when like they really went from just being a big R&B group to being a super group. And they released a Christmas album in 1993 with different, I guess, Christmas songs or whatever, their versions of famous Christmas songs. They returned to the studio for their highly anticipated sophomore effort. And, if you listen to my videos, oftentimes the sophomore effort can be disappointing. That wasn't the case for them. Their second album, which was Two, was released and it sold more than 12 million copies, becoming one of the best-selling albums ever released by an R&B group in the history of music. And it was one of the biggest albums of the decade. And it won 2 awards and 95 Grammys, including Best R&B Album. I'll Make Love to You, okay, broke End of the Road's 13-week record at number one. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, and someone can correct me on this, but I'm going by memory here. End of the Road has spent 13 weeks at number one, right? But it was that streak was broken, if I'm not mistaken, by Whitney Houston's "I Will Always Love You," which will go on to break End of the Road's record by being number one on the Hot Billboard 100 for 14 straight weeks. And then ultimately, "I'll Make Love to You" would go on and tie Whitney Houston. But that's my favorite song they ever made, though, man. "I'll Make Love to You," right? I mean, you can't help but think about the woman that you're attracted to, or the woman that you love, or the woman that you have loved. Listen to that song. Even though I always was thrown off by how the video begins with her, uh, talking to the dude installing security or whatever. Like when I first heard listen to the video, I'm like, how the fuck is this? But if you listen to that song, man, you don't want it to fucking end and shit. And Wanya, uh, like I can't sing like this dude, so it's gonna sound horrible. They go, "Tell me, baby, oh, oh, yeah, ooh, yeah." Like you fucking harmonize and troll you, but that album was fire though, man. I remember that album also had On Bended Knee, Water Runs Dry, and yeah, that's my favorite album that they've ever made. You know what I'm saying? Um, their third studio album, Evolution, was released during 1997, and like I said before, if you're aware of the music industry at that time, tastes were changing, and I think R&B, the individuals that were listening. This is my theory. I think that the generation that was listening to R&B, some of them were now listening to. It's like for some reason we started listening more to just hip hop, and it was like I don't know, man. It's like I don't want to say they became corny and nothing like that, but it's like musical styles and tastes just change. You know what I'm saying? It's always evolving, and I think music was becoming more sexualized and more. It was just a lot of shit was just changing and shit, right? So their third album only sold 3 million copies, and the songs were not. I don't know. They just weren't. They weren't as good. They weren't as catchy. They weren't as memorable. And you know, after 2000, I don't know, man. I mean, they were still putting out albums. They still put out music, but they started having issues with the label, and they left Universal in 2001, which ended their 10-year partnership. And then their fourth album came out, which is called Full Circle. And by this time, McClary really was struggling, okay, physically. Michael McClary was really struggling physically. He had scoliosis even as a younger man, but by that time he had multiple sclerosis. And I don't know. I Maybe it was a combination of the physical exertion from touring and diminishing results. This album only sold 500,000 copies in the United States and 1 million worldwide, far below what they were normally accustomed to. And he left the group. Their new parent company, Arista, which they joined after their partnership ended in 2001 with Universal, canceled their contract. And afterwards, they took a temporary hiatus from the music industry. Now, since then, they've made some comeback. They've made a comeback of sorts. As far as active members, they're down to three because McCurry, like I said, left due to health problems and personal issues. But you know what I'm saying? They, from the time to time, have reunited with McCurry on special occasions. Back in 2009, there was a concert in Virginia Beach, Virginia. I remember this one. In 2009, he uh, temporarily rejoined the group, but he just can't deal with the rigors of the group anymore. You know what I'm saying? But they still tour. They released an album called Under the Streetlight back in 2017, and they're still around. They're still around. You know what I'm saying? Just this past year, they toured in Asia, and not only have they left their mark, they have been influences for different groups that have come and and have succeeded them. So, Boys and Men have made their mark in the music industry, and they are. I don't know. I mean, what else can I say? They're legends. Um, they came in at just the right time when R&B still was a respected and a respected musical genre. Today, in my opinion, R&B is basically dead. It's dead. You know, I think it's a cultural thing with us. Like a lot of the women today, they listen to they're basically listening to rap. They listen to the Nicki Minaj's, they listen to whoever the fuck is out there. Um, And I remember, like, shit, you could kind of trace it to Ja Rule. Remember when he did Mesmerize, which I actually think was a nice fucking song, but he got so ridiculed for it. And what's funny was that 50 Cent was leading the charge for that, but then 50 Cent later on did the same goddamn thing. Horribly, might I add. Because I actually think that Ja Rule, even though his voice sounds kind of gruff, it worked for the song. But over the years, man, it's just that R&B. I'm not saying that there aren't people that don't listen to R&B, but as a whole, the genre has died to me. Um, it's a tragedy, but Boyz II Men will always be remembered for the music they put out there. And tell me what you guys think.